This video is over finding inverse functions. We have a 4-step process. Step 1 and 4 are fluff pieces. Step 2 and 3 are the most important steps to know. So number 1, replace f of x with y if needed. Because remember, f of x and y are the same thing. So instead of f of x, replace it with y. Interchange x and y. Okay, interchange them. So for every x you have, you're going to put a y. For every y you have, you're going to put an x. 3. Solve for y. So these two are the most important steps. Solve for y. Then 4, replace y with a inverse function of f, which has the superscript of -1, where it looks like an exponent. And then graph your inverses and your functions together in one plot if requested. So let's go ahead and find the inverses of these functions. So f of x equals 1/2 x plus 1. Okay, we need to replace f of x with y. So instead of f of x, we are going to place y. Now, I know this is just so crazy that we can switch the x and y, but that's how it's done. So instead of y, we place an x. Instead of x, we place a y. So interchange them, and then we're going to solve for this y. So subtract the 1, multiply by 2 to both sides. Y equals 2 times x minus 1, or y equals 2x minus 2. And then this is your inverse function. You can replace that with the inverse function notation, and there we go. So the biggest thing that you need to remember is interchange x and y and solve for y. That's it. As long as you have your first function and your inverse function, that's fine. These, where we change f of x to y and y into the inverse, that's fluff. I'm more concerned of, can you work this and interchange x and y, solve for y. So let's look at another one. Okay, so let's find the inverse. Again, instead of f of x, we need a y so that we can change x and y around. And then solve for the y. So subtract 8. Divide by -2. I'm going to divide by -2 with each term. So y equals -1/2 x plus 4. And then the last step, which I'm not too worried about the last step, you change your y into the inverse function. And that's it. We'll do one more. Okay, so we don't need to change f of x to y. We don't really need to solve for y at this point. All we need to do is just interchange. Don't solve it. Just interchange them. And then you can go ahead and solve. So y equals 4/3 x plus 4. And then this part, if you do it, that's great. If not, I'm not too worried about the last part of changing this. I'm just worried about you guys getting to the inverse function. Some professors really want you to finish it out and have f, your inverse function of f, but that will come later and natural when you work your math or work more inverses. And again, if it says graph, you're going to graph both values. So this one I'd probably graph by the intercepts. So x-intercept, if we solve for x, that's going to be 4. And then with our y-intercept, that's going to give us -3. So here's one line. And then here we have up 4. And then if we execute our slope, I can go down 4 and left 3. Okay. And there's our f of x and our inverse of f of x. And what's neat about this is that along the x equals y line, there's a mirror image. So for every dot you have up here, you should have one down here. And as you can see, we have 0, 4. And if you flip those around, we have a 4, 0. For every 3, 0 we have here, we have a -3, sorry. 0, -3 here. So inverse functions also have inverse points. So our points, when you inverse a point, say like we have 3, 2, inverse point of that would be 2, 3. So for every point you have on this line, you flip those two values and you should have one on the inverse line. So that's how you would graph. This concludes this video.